and my in-laws. My family lives in Crosbyton. We're originally from Crosbyton. Their family moved to Ralls, so we're going from Ralls to Crosbyton. And it was October 10-ish at night, and it was a pretty. It wasn't a full moon, but it was enough, so you could see. And this little farm, call it a farm, is just a farmer had some goats, chickens, in pens, about 25 yards from the highway. So I could see, had a clear vision, and saw something huge standing by the pens. We're the only car on the highway, so it saw us, and it cleared from there to the road, maybe like 2-3 steps, and it was right at the side of the road, and I slowed down, and it stood up on 2 feet and was touching the side of the car. The waist, from like I say about mid-navel up was above the car, so I couldn't really estimate how tall it was, but it was a Ford Contour, so I'm saying 7.5 feet tall at least, maybe or more. And the color was I call it calico, but one of the persons he told me to get in contact, I think it's Sean Springer, I'm not sure if that's his name.
Yeah.
There's been, in this area, there've been a hyena-looking dogman reported, and they have a similar coloring to that, so that would be kind of like what it was like that. It was like a patchy off color, like a brown, yellowish color, all like intertwined. And that was pretty, well, to see something that big on the side of the road, I mean, that's just a little unnerving. And that made me think about when I was younger. We had a story of there was a guy who would write into the newspaper saying that he was a werewolf type.
Yeah.
That he would go hunting, and he would document on what he would hunt, kill deers, and go after whatever he saw. And we've heard around that time, my dad used to hear his friends would talk about they found deers out in the country all mutilated, butchered up, and like something just tore them up. Everybody was arming themselves. My dad, my brother-in-law went and got shotguns, and we lived in town. But he would say he would go into town and just go. He would say go. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he would go exploring. He would say that's what he would write in the newspaper. During that time, a lot of people were small town, less than 2,000 people, so everybody walks all over the place. Kids were walking around at night and they were being chased by, they would call it a big dog. And my brother was one of them. He went from one friend's house, was coming home, and he said he heard a growling noise behind him. They glimpsed over his shoulder and he said it was a big dog, and he took off running. He could hear the claws scratching the road as he was running, which was more like toying with him because he could have caught him easily, but he made it to the house, door was open, he dove in, all in one motion, slammed the door shut, and we heard and felt this kid that shook the house, the side of the house, and my mom had her house, and there was a garage right next door, and there was like a little sidewalk in between both the house and the garage. You could hear it walking, and you could hear the claws scrape the And the noise it made was it wasn't a howl, it wasn't a bark, it was like guttural. It's just guttural. It was a loud vocalization. I mean, it was just that stuck with me. And I started thinking about it. Well, that guy who everybody knew him. He was a farmer. This guy was massive. He was pushing 7 feet tall himself.
Yeah.
And he used the wheel motors on the engines for the pumps and all that was like a 454 engine. He used to pick the motors up, by his hands and put them in the back of his truck. That's how big this guy was, and that's who everybody assumed was that who was writing the stories, because all of a sudden he just gone. He wasn't there no more.
Really?
All his stuff was still at the house, and it just like one night they were like, he's gone. And after that we quit hearing about. They quit reporting in the news about the werewolf. They would call him the Wolf Man or something. But that's who I think would be the person, because after he disappeared, we quit hearing about stuff like that.
So it was in the news.
It was in the newspaper. Yeah, they wrote about it. People were saying, how people would say, well, they're just trying to drum up interest for the newspaper, but it's a little bitty town. I mean, 2,000 people. You're not gonna make that much money off 2,000, less than 2,000 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sticking with it, and I'm sick, so I don't have a filter no more. I want to share these stories, and if I get ridiculed, I get ridiculed. But I know what I saw and what my family's seen, so that's all that I can. You know what I mean? That's all I can go by.
Yeah. What?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Oh, no, the second one that my brother was telling me about was when they got chased. And it was about that same time when they were having those in Crosbyton, but that man that was the Wolf Man was in town hunting, and it was around the same time when they had their experience. They were my father-in-law was a farmhand, so they lived out in the country. The town that they were to look, that little village where they were close to where they lived at was Cone, Texas, and that's roughly about 10 miles north of Ralls. And they were visiting family members and going home at night. They were in the bed of the truck. All my brother-in-law, my 3 brother-in-laws, and my wife. And now at the time we're in the back. She was little. They were going back home, going to dirt roads. They lived in Cone was a little town. They lived another 2.5, maybe 3 miles northwest of Cone, out in the country. Dirt roads, and my father-in-law said he saw something running in the fields, and he said it was in Spanish he said perro más grande, the biggest dog he's ever seen. That's the only thing he could describe it. They were going. He slowed down, to see if he was seeing what he was saying. He said, and my father-in-law was a Baptist preacher, so he didn't lie. He said he saw it, and he started taking off, and that thing started chasing him, coming at him pretty fast. he was booking it down the dirt road, trying to maintain the road, not to slide off into the bar ditch and slipping and sliding. And he would say he couldn't lose it. He couldn't get away from it. It was keeping up with him. Jimmy, my brother-in-law, the oldest, and Israel, second oldest, were there. Matthew, they were in the back with my wife, and he said that this thing started chasing him and coming at him, and it was eating on it, and he kept telling them, Dad, hurry up. And they pushed Sherry and Matthew up against the cab, the window, and they were shielding them. And Jimmy says that he could see that thing running, and he, to this day, he still spooks him because he don't want to talk about what he saw. He called it a thing grabbed the tailgate, and he said he could see fingers like a person's, but huge, with, he said, like claws or fingernails or something. And my father took off. It couldn't get in there, so it just kept coming after him. And that time they threw my wife, Sherry, into the cab with my dad, my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law. They kept going. My father-in-law told Jimmy, when he get home, jump off, look at the shotgun. And so he pulled in. Jimmy jumped off, ran inside, grabbed the gun. And that time, my mother-in-law, my other brother-in-law got out with Matt and Sherry and ran inside. Father-in-law was out at the time, and he said the thing was coming, still coming. He said it's still coming. So they slammed the door shut, and they slept in the living room all night. And they could hear it pacing around the house, and he said he got tired, and he opened the door and gave us a couple warning shots, and it took off, and it didn't mess with him the rest of that night. So, but my father, till the day he died, would say that was one of the most scariest things he's ever seen. And so, you think it's a wolf, Dogman?
Yeah, I mean that's what it sounds like. There's just a few questions. The one that you saw. We go back to that one. Do you remember seeing what its legs look like?
The legs, all I remember seeing was when it was like crouched. I was thinking to myself, that looks like a dog because the way the back legs are, how the dogs are.
Yeah.
It was like that, but it was huge. But then when it stood up, I was like, that can't be a dog, because dogs don't do that. But when it stood up, it kind of like jerked. When it stood up straight, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me it had intelligence because it knew we were the only cars there, and it just could have reached in or just pushed us over as big as it was, but it just stood there, and you could see the fur as we passed by. And my wife still, she gets scared thinking about it. She won't talk about it, and it frightened me. But I mean, there's no, I don't know how to explain what it was. You know what I mean? Just something big. I was like, it can't be a Bigfoot because it's over here. It's flat, and it might be, but I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's no, like your typical, how they say, habitat for Bigfoot. There's nothing in this area like that. So that just always in my mind was like, just I want to know what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What did you think it was? Did anything pop into your head or?
At that time, I would think Bigfoot, but I never really heard about Dogman until I got older. And we always heard werewolves, but I would always, people would say, "Oh, that's just made up and whatnot," but I never heard of Dogman until I started researching stuff on my own, and when then I came across your site, and since then I started putting two together. So to me, it's Dogman is the only thing that I can come up with.
Yeah, I mean I would agree with you. That's what it sounds like to me, especially the legs.
Yeah, because it wasn't like somebody squatting down. It was like when a dog sits down and when they're about to get up. You can see that dog leg. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you think it was doing?
I think it was hunting, because they're the goats that farmer would say that he had some goats missing, and he had some big goats, and they were thinking people were stealing them, but I'm thinking lunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something, because they had goats, chickens, and I would always notice that when they passed at night, those goats were always circling. They were never still. But no, I don't know. I always thought dogs are around or something, coyotes, but it could have been that he was picking them off and just going for a free snack. But pretty bold, because it's almost in the open, wide open. You know what I mean?
Right, and it was pretty late at night, right?
Yeah, pretty late at night. Yeah, so we're the only car on the road, and like I said, both towns are little, less than 2,000 people, so there's not that much traffic going back and forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Is there any street lights on that road?
No, it's a highway. It's a road in between towns. It's just dark. If a farmer has a light, they'll have it out on their house, but that's about it. There's no lights on it. It's just open.
Yeah.
And if it's dark, when there's no moon out, it's dark.
Yeah, it's interesting how it just kind of came right up to the car.
And that's what I mean.
But didn't do anything.
It just stood there and stood up. That's what I would think. Did I see it? Or did I imagine it? Because why would something do that? I never. It always stuck with me. Why did it just do that? It didn't hit it. Or it didn't run from us. Or didn't run across the road. It just stood there and stood up. And I always think to myself, well, you didn't see it. You didn't see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So forgive me if I miss some of these details. I'll just ask you again.
Yeah.
So it was on the passenger side, right?
Yeah. And my wife, she saw it and she glimpsed at it, but she ducked her head and she got scared. And I'm the more curious. I wanted to see what it was, but I remember slowing down, and she said, "Don't slow down." So I could try to stop, and I slowed down, and it was just standing there, kind of looking at us. And then when I kept going towards the town, and I looked back, it was gone. I don't know if it ran across or back toward the pins or what.
How fast do you think you slowed down to? How fast do you think you were going when you...
When I slowed down, I was going between the towns. It's 65. So at night, when I saw it, I was going about 65. But I saw it at a distance, and I remember seeing that was Tio Peña's. That was his goat. And I was thinking, well, that's what's killing his goat. There's probably a dog. That's why I started slowing down, and that's when it came to the road.
Okay. How long would you say that you got to look at it from the first time you saw it till you went past it?
It felt like hours, but I was probably maybe minute and a half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's what the speed of it getting from there to the road was awe-inspiring, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it was quick, but it was like a dog to get to the side of the road. And then by the time I saw it, because I slowed down pretty good. And then when it was just right there at the side of the road, when it stood up, that's when I think I was probably going about maybe 30 miles an hour when I slowed down.
Yeah. And how far did you say that it kind of, from where you first saw it to then where it went to the side of the road, how far do you think that was that it went?
25 yards, 20 yards maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was pretty quick.
And do you recall if it walked on two legs to the side of the road, or kind of?
It was going like a running like a dog, you know, like when a dog takes off running.
Yeah.
But it was just massive. So I was thinking maybe a wolf, because there's been people always talk about there's wolves in this area. So but you know, I always assume rumors. You know, people talk, they misidentify a coyote or something, or a stray dog, and say it's a wolf. But the only thing I could think of was wolf. Big dog. It's not a dog. I know what a coyote is, and it's not. They wanted that size of a coyote.
Yeah, I mean, what you saw sounded much bigger than a coyote or a wolf. You know.
Yeah. But the only thing I could think of was wolf, and I was like, that's a big wolf.
Yeah, it's also. Go ahead.
I started thinking about the old stories that, you know, about the thing we used to hear about being chased, people being chased in town by a big dog. They would call it a big dog.
So, you know, given you've seen it up close yourself, and then you've talked to your family, your brother-in-law, and everybody else, based on their description, you know, years back, right? Do you think it was the same one, different one, or what do you think?
I'm thinking it was not the same one, same pack. They're like other canines. They congregate in packs, social animals. So if it's not the same one, it's big enough as it was, it could be from the same pack or same group. To me, it had to be more than one, because of the way he would say he'd be in east of town in the canyon, because from Crosbyton, you go east about another 10 miles. It's a big canyon, and he would go hunt down there. He said for deer, but to be in town and in the canyon, that's a lot. You know, that's far. So to me, it had to be more than one.
Yeah. Did they happen to say maybe the color of what theirs looked like that you remember?
He says it was just dark colored. So, and all I can remember from the one I saw was it was dark colored, but it also had like flashes of like a yellowish fur, dark fur, like a yellow fur mixed in. So, might have been the same one, might have been juvenile, or I don't know how those go. Or what do you think? Do you think they run in packs, or?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been. I mean, I wouldn't know for sure. I just have heard other people, you know, talk about it, and there has been groups of them together.
I've heard stories of them saying they come in groups. So, like after this, I try to, you know, investigate, or you know, look up stuff, and I've come across stories where people have said it's more than one, and some of the stories that I heard is basically what happened to my in-laws. So I'm assuming Dogman, but you know, I never knew they were in this area, because it's always been like in up north, Michigan, down that area. I've never heard of anything down here until recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple good sources, you know, for stories just like this one. the Dogman Encounters radio show with Vic Cundiff and.
Yeah, I came across some guys at a paranormal roundtable.
Yeah, Josh Turner.
Yeah, and they had one show where they were talking about hyena dogman in this area. They said Lovewood, Abilene area. So, and I live in Lubbock now. So, but Crosbyton to Lubbock is from Lubbock to Crosbyton is like 36 miles east of Lubbock. So. Straight as, like they say, as a crow flies. So
yeah.
So man, I'm pretty sure they have big areas where they range around in.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the map. As we're talking, I'm trying to see, where the water sources are. It looks like there's a bunch of little ponds everywhere, and there it looks.
Every farmer has like their own little. They call them ponds, where they divert water, rain or runoff, and they collect in the pond. So I know on the way from, between Ralls, Lorenzo and Ralls, it's another town west of Ralls. There's at least 3 ponds where water builds up there, and then in Lubbock there's a lake. Big Clyde Lake, but it runs through the canyon, and it's I can't remember the name of the lake. It's just the river, but everybody just calls it the Lubbock River, whatever. But Mackenzie, and there's every farm has like its own little pond big enough for water sources. So there's plenty of water sources and. In the area, there's all little ponds.
Yeah. And it looks like there's one maybe in that canyon too, maybe a little smaller stream or something else.
Yeah, there is. And then east of Crosbyton, there's the canyon there, but there's White River Lake that runs through there, and that one, if you go north, it's Highway 6282 that runs through all the way down that way. North of 6282, some big farmers have blocked it off, but it pulls up big, big ponds, big areas. When it rains hard enough, it flows through, and you have a big torrent. I mean, there's plenty of waters for it, plenty of source for waters down that way.
Yeah. Yeah, because something that big, it would have to.
Have a lot of water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So that's just kind of what I was thinking as you were talking, where they might hang out, for cover and things like that.
And if you go to that area and east of Crosbyton, then there's a lot of places for something to hide down there big enough, because it's a lot of slot canyons and dead ends and big old areas down that way. So
yeah, definitely. And it's, you hear these stories a lot. You'll hear more as you listen to them. It seems to be a common kind of pattern where they kind of present themselves like come right up to the car, or come right at the car, or come right to the house.
Yeah.
Where they just kind of scare the crap out of you.
Yeah. Which would be, as signs of intelligence. It's not just some dumb brute creature, in my opinion.
Did you, were you able to tell in any way, one way or the other, male or female?
I couldn't really tell, but the size of it, I'm only assuming male. It's just, and the canines, bigger animals are the males, but usually so. But I couldn't see, if it was male or female, but it was just massive. Didn't have no teeth, just put it that way.
Did it, like if you got a look at its upper body at all, did it have arms?
They had arms, and that's what threw
Yeah.
just solid. So, and I've heard stories that, like Bigfoot, muscular, and I was thinking, can't be a Bigfoot in this area. So that sort of always just get my mind going back and forth, like, what was it? Did I see it? Was it real?
Like how do you how would you say, like, after you saw that, I'm sure you heard the stories too, but after you saw it, how did it change, like, you or your wife, what you guys thought about just things in general?
It made me think, there's something out there, because I would hear stories and I was into it, like I would hear about Bigfoot and stuff like that. It interested me, but in the back of my mind, I was like, I can't be, it was always that little doubt that there's, people say, but I always thought it was a misidentification or whatever. But after I saw that, there is something out there. Now I know, when I hear stories, I take them at face value. So, and my wife's the same way. We believe. I believe, and I saw what I saw, and they seen what they seen. So, that's the only way I can describe it. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I do. And your brother-in-law's or their family's whole encounter. That one is just.
That one, they lived in that little house out in the country for a while after that. And my wife would tell me stories that it was out in the dark in the middle, no houses around it for miles, just a house out there for him to work in. They had a light pole with a light on it, and they had a basketball goal, and they would play basketball. And out in the country, they stay out 2, 3 in the morning sometimes, just during the summer. And they said her and my brother Matt, he passed away, but he would tell me stories of it when they were out there playing one time, and they could hear something like pacing on the edge, right at the edge of where the light is, where you couldn't see but you could hear. And they said it was dogs, but you think about it, it was probably those dogmen or something, because they would once they heard that, they would go back inside, and it happened quite a bit.
And
My wife told me she told me a story that my mother-in-law was in there early in the morning. My father would leave early, and the kids would go to school. She was hanging clothes out on the line, and it was her and Sherry. She was little at the time. When she was hanging clothes, rocks were thrown at her, and they would hit her clothes on the clothesline. And she said one rock hit the clothesline, and so she stopped, and another one came. So, and do they do that, or that's more of a Bigfoot trait, ain't it?
Yeah. I haven't heard many stories where the Dogman throws rocks, but hey, if they have hands and arms.
Yeah, so. And my mom-in-law said that she said, okay, she put the clothes down, went and got my wife, she was little at the time, and they took off till my father came home, clothes out on the yard, and everything in the basket, and just the rocks were just coming over her shoulder, hitting her clothes on the clothesline.
Yeah, I've heard that, quite a bit with Bigfoot, but one thing you think about with those rocks, how big they were, how close they landed to her. Have you ever been to, I wonder, like, how far away, are there hills there or woods, like how far away the rocks were coming from wherever they were coming from?
Well, from the house where they had it, I went over there once we got, when my wife would tell me the stories, and I always wanted to go see the house. It was a little house, probably like it was just a 2-bedroom house, 1 bathroom. and it had a butane tank, big white tanks for butane, and they had that pole, that light, and behind it was like a mound, raised earth, just like a mound behind the house. I never knew why it was there, but it was just a mound. House was in front of that. The clothesline was between the pole and the house, so the rocks were coming from over that mound towards the house. So from the north-south, the house was situated like north, front door facing south, and then back facing north. So it was coming from over that little mound. And my wife would tell me about this big mound, and she was little, so I assumed it was, just a little hill, but it was pretty good size. The bar ditches are pretty deep in that area, so they could go along the bar ditch like that on all fours, or if they go on all fours, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there's little clumps of trees every now and then, so maybe they would lay up in there. I don't know. It's pretty wild. But like I said, I never knew they were in this area, so I never never thought about anything like that when I was younger. Till, like I said earlier, till I got older and started doing some research of my own.
Yeah. Now, how long would you say you've been kind of researching, listening to other people's stories and things?
I'd say at least like 16 years since after I saw what we saw on the side of the road. That's when I started, YouTube or internet, and there's any kind of stories and shows on RFC shows that has anything to do with stuff like that. I'm glued, and they know, my family knows, he's watching that, so don't call him or interrupt him right now. So.
Right. Yeah, you've probably been knowing about it a lot longer than I have. I started with the Dogman around 2016.
Yeah.
I started really listening to all these shows, and I listened to a couple hundred of them in a row because I was sick. I got Lyme disease, kind of autoimmune, comes and goes. You know how that is.
Yeah, I have RA, but I have autoimmune disease as well. So whenever I have bad days, I just look stuff up like that. Because when I know it's 4 or 5 hours that pass.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. I feel your pain. Mine's not as bad as yours. Mine comes and goes, but it's tough.
Yeah. This happened. My father had been gone 6-7 years, so about 8 years ago, his oldest son from another marriage passed away in South Texas, so they went to South Texas for the funeral. On the way back, in between hill country, north of, I don't know if you know, familiar with Texas, but the hill country area is San Antonio area, and it stretches all the way up to Sweetwater, down that area. It's a good couple 100 miles. And they were in that, just coming out of the hill country. It was at night. They were coming back. My brother-in-law Israel, his wife at the time, and my father-in-law and Jimmy were up. They were talking, telling stories, and Israel's wife at the time, Lulu, was driving, and she stopped. It was at 2-3 in the morning. She stopped the car, or the minivan they had rented, and in the field was Israel said, this massive creature. the field eating it, just munching away on the deer. When they stopped, Israel said that this thing stood up, and it was a full moon, he said, and everybody calls me Bobby. He goes, Bobby, I shit you not, that thing turned around, looked at us, and then he saw the shoulders and massive, and it just walked away from him. And he said it was grayish, like a white color. So he said, he told everybody I saw Bigfoot. And that's the only thing they said it was, but it was huge, massive. And so he saw that, and they say that when, Lulu wanted to stop and get off and look, but my father said, no, just go. You don't know what these are. We don't know what these are. So they took off, but they said it was the biggest thing that they've ever seen. My father would tell me, he would watch wrestling. He said, just picture the Big Show. And he goes, like that, Nicole. Just picture him with hair all over, like that. He was that big. I've heard of stories of Bigfoot in that area, San Antonio area in there.
So you think, based on that story, they were thinking Bigfoot with that one, or?
Yeah, they were thinking Bigfoot on that one because it was just the size of it.
Yeah.
And Israel said that's the only thing he could think of. That first thing that came to his mind was Bigfoot. And my father would just say it was like the wrestler Big Show, but with hair. That's how massive it was.
Yeah, these things, pretty big.
Yeah.
Unbelievably big.
Yeah, I would like to see one, but I don't know if I would. Because what I saw scared me, so I could imagine what something like that would do.
Yeah, something, especially as close as you were, I mean, it's one thing to see it from a distance like that, but,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been meeting a lot of people from Texas, online recently, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, I never really always heard Northeast, East, and then I started, looking into it, and I started seeing more and more in this area. East Texas, the big gets down that way, and then San Antonio area, there's pretty wooded in some areas, so for stuff to hide out in.
Oh, definitely. And Texas, it seems like there's so many Dogman stories, in Texas. East Texas, West Texas, South. I mean, quite a few people yourself.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
These things they're out there.
Yeah.
But, I don't want to keep you all night. I really appreciate you sharing your stories with me. And
Not a problem, brother. You have my info, and if you ever need anything, message me, and if I hear anything, I'll message you.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll keep in touch. I'm always in my group and on my page, and if you ever give me a call or a message, whatever you need.
Sounds good. I definitely will keep an eye out and keep amateur investigating as much as I can.
That's all we can do, brother. Just keep each other informed. And
Yep.
all right, Jesus. Hope things go well with your mother-in-law and everything, and yourself. I know it's tough, but
Yeah.
hang in there, man.
All right, brother. I will. You take it easy.
You too. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
All right, brother. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.